Hello. Everything working? Hello. Everything working? Hello. Working? Hello. Working? Why is it? It keeps repeating itself now. What the heck? Perfect. We'll probably get started at like 6. What? Hey. Oh, sorry. I just wanted to make sure everything was working. It was basically like when I was doing test runs, it was like making a really high pitched crackling noise. But I think someone helped me out with that. Like they were on the stream just messaging me. So I think we're good. I do not. The cool star 0316. Is that you? It's you? Oh. Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. Thank you though. Yeah. I'll start in like 10 minutes. So. Yeah. All right. Bye. In the description, if there are any other things you want me to cover, oh, I forgot to put it. I'm gonna include a Ask FM, so you could just put your questions there. Yeah, I picked a bad time for the Harden Curry thing. Um, his last game was pretty awful. But yeah, that is something to consider in the debate because he hasn't had much playoff success in his entire career, and every um, what's it called? Every elimination game he does pretty poorly in. Oh man, I already lost a viewer. Oh, in case you were wondering, Cool Star, it's there's a 15-second delay. Um, so you may type something and it'll just come up a little bit afterwards. Oh, really? I thought you could just be anonymous or something. Okay, I guess all questions can just be put in the chat and hopefully I can catch up with them. Um, I don't expect there to be a lot of people, so it should be fine. Actually, oh, okay. If you guys have comments, I'm assuming everyone here is going to be someone I know or I'm Facebook friends with. So you could just comment your questions, your feedback on this status. Oh, hi, Ankit. Is the board mirrored in the screen? Oh, is it mirrored though? Like, does the L come out normal or is it backwards? Oh, you can read it. Cool. Okay, just a few minutes and I guess we could just get started. Okay, could you comment that on the status in case like someone else joins the chat and then I lose it later down the road? What do each team need to? Ah, okay, yeah. Hello. Any new songs coming out in Rafa? Oh, that's good to hear. Okay. Okay. Thanks for joining us. I don't know who everyone here is, but thank you for joining. It's glad to know that I'm not talking to myself because that would be pretty unmotivating. Anyways, usually these podcasts are supposed to come up on Sunday evenings, but tomorrow's Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day to everyone. Yeah, so I decided to do it today instead. Earlier this week, I did a and kind of a test my feet vodcast, where I discussed like why teams shouldn't try to build their team to be similar to the Warriors, because the Warriors were actually built on accident. So I'll briefly go over that first. Next, I had a conversation with someone. They're in Amsterdam now, so I don't think they're saying this, but I'll link it to him afterwards. About who's better, James Harden or Steph Curry. The following topic is about LeBron. I don't think he's had a cakewalk in the East. I think it's pretty easy for people just to use that as a scapegoat. And following that, every year people complain about like there being an NBA draft conspiracy. I'm gonna state the reasons why I don't think there is one. There's really only one big reason, but I'll explain that when we get there. Then the second to last topic is basically is baseball related. Just games and players I think we should keep an eye on for the following week. And the last one, if there's any audience Q&As or suggested topics that I should mention or that I should cover, I want to we're gonna do that at the end, and I'll probably only take like 5 to 10 minutes at the end. I'm not trying to have too long of a stream. Um, gonna watch Guardians of the Galaxy tonight, and I need to eat before that. So yeah. All right, so let's get started. Basically, there were 5 main reasons that the Warriors were built on accident. I realized that there was a 6th one that I also forgot to mention though. So first reason was Klay Thompson and Curry have otherworldly talent when it comes to shooting. If you look at the trajectory of the rates at which they're shooting at, it's the fastest in NBA history. People overlook Thompson, even though he's going at a faster rate than Curry did at the beginning of his career. And Curry had a season where he just shot 400 threes in a season, and that's never going to be replicated again. Maybe by him, but by no one else. I can pretty much guarantee that. Thanks for the feedback, guys. So then next, another otherworldly talent they have is Draymond Green, who they landed in the 2nd round, and he's the most unique player maybe of all time. He's an undersized power forward that can shoot threes. He can play make without compromising defense, and he can that's just something you don't get out of the power forward position. If you do get a stretch four, usually they're not the best defenders, they're not the best rebounders. And it's just strange that Green's can shoot, he can dribble, he can pass, yet defense is his strongest suit still. So just when you're trying to use a small ball, the biggest thing that you lose out is defensive rebounding. However, with Draymond Green, the Warriors haven't lost that out. In fact, they improve in every regard: 3-point shooting, defense, rebounding. I had an earlier article I wrote a while ago getting more into detail about that, why the big men will never die. I'll probably link it in chat a little later. But till then, I'll just go into the second point, which is basically talking about Draymond Green a little more. Basically, he was a 2nd-round pick. That's not a surprise to anyone, but the thing is that 2nd-round picks usually don't pan out, and they have short NBA careers if they do. In this case, Draymond Green ended up becoming an all-star and arguably the Warriors' most vital player. Complete outlier. No other team's going to be able to replicate that. Third point, injuries were actually the best thing that happened to them. Usually when you get an player to be injured, all-stars in this case, your season usually goes down the drain. However, when starting with Curry's ankles, he never got to, progress through his career, develop more as much as he'd like, and it actually helped the Warriors tank and get better picks, stockpile on some young players, which eventually one of them ended up being Klay Thompson. And then it gave Curry no leverage in contract negotiations. So the Warriors had a lot of financial flexibility, which I'll go into a little more. And then another injury that people overlook is David Lee's injury, which accelerated Draymond Green's development. Initially, the year David Lee got injured, it was Steve Kerr's first year, and he actually wanted to give David Lee more touches in the post because it gives you a more balanced offensive game plan. But instead, Lee got hurt, and they had to adjust on the fly. Led to more small ball, and the Warriors just took off after that happened. So the fourth point, the Warriors' financial flexibility. This goes back to Curry's $11 million, which is a huge bargain for anyone who's a 2-time MVP. And Green's contract was also minuscule because he was only a 2nd-round pick. So because you have these 2 pivotal players getting really small contracts, you get a lot of flexibility. So you get to bring in people like Andrew Bogut and David Lee, who have expensive contracts and are pretty capable players themselves. And they were keys in turning around the Warriors franchise. And next point, second to last point, was the counterexample. People always point to the Rockets, and I know this is kind of like just bad timing because the Rockets were just eliminated in an embarrassing fashion. But the Rockets did have a pretty successful season, and they're one of the powerhouses of the NBA this year. But that's also an outlier because Harden's a generational talent, and the Rockets really lucked out in landing him too. The Thunder could have easily extended him instead of Ibaka, but they chose to stay with the big man. So Harden had to be on his way out, and the Rockets got him for pretty good bargain there. And in reality, like even though the Rockets are getting like they've advanced and they've made noise, they haven't really accomplished anything. And chances are, like, I don't think anyone took them seriously to win the NBA Finals. No one took them seriously to beat the Spurs or the Warriors if they were to face them. And I don't think they would beat Cleveland either. And then in my video, forgot to mention the last point, which was the height. The Warriors have like unparalleled height in the NBA, which gave them a versatility no one else has. 9 of the top 10 rotational players are either 6'6" or taller. No one in the league, has that kind of luxury to enjoy. Wow, I kind of sped through that. If you guys have anything you want to comment, I'll give you a couple minutes to just comment them in the live chat. But other than that, then I'll move to the next topic, which is the James Harden and Steph Curry debate. All right, you guys want to get started on the next topic, or should I wait a little longer? There's only 6 of you, so I should be able to accommodate everyone's needs. Okay. Yeah, I'll move forward. So the first topic I got through pretty fast. That's mostly because I already covered it before, so I didn't want to spend too much time on it. So I'll slow down for the future topics. Can you read this? Or is there too much glare? Okay. Hopefully you can read it. If not, sorry. I'll go over it verbally as well. Basically, I tried to divide the basketball into as many categories as possible. Yeah, so basically not everything is black and white because the Warriors, Curry and Harden are actually like really close in terms of talent. So I thought it would be better to divide each category up into a little more. That way we can get a more detailed answer. We'll start with scoring around the rim. Curry, only in the last 2 years has he really become one of the better finishers around the rim. But Harden's done that his entire career. And I think most people just trust Harden around the rim more because of his ability to draw fouls. So giving that edge to Harden. I don't have numbers for the mid-range of each player or how many shots they take, what their actual percentage is. This is all based off of the eye test. But I think we all know that Curry's the best shooter in the league. I think we can safely give him this one. 3-point shooting as well. They take roughly about the same amount of 3-point shots each game. Harden being at 9.3 and Curry being at 10. And Curry's obviously making a lot more of them. So Curry, again, gets this. Now, free throws was kind of interesting. So this may, raise some controversy. But basically, I wanted to give this to Harden because even though Curry's a 90% shooter and Harden's only at 85% shooter, Harden gets almost 3 times the attempts Curry does a game. So Curry's at the line about 4.6 times and he'll make 4.1, 4.2 of them. Harden makes attempts 11 of them and gets a little over 10 a game. Or sorry, no, a little under 10 a game made. So this one I actually give to Harden just because of volume. I'd rather have someone on the line who gets more shot attempts. So creating your own shot, this was actually the most important to me. And this is where I was talking about my other friend earlier who I had this debate with. This is where things got kind of murky. Curry's very good at creating his own shot, but he still works off of a lot of screens. And he has a lot of, when he does get his own shot, it's mostly off of, I don't know, taller, bigger power forwards and centers because he runs the pick and roll so often with Draymond. However, Harden, like I think the only person who creates their own shot better than him is Kevin Durant. So I'm gonna give this edge to Harden. So overall, I just think Harden's a better scorer. Curry's a little more efficient, but that's also because Harden doesn't have the teammates Curry has. Curry gets a lot of help facilitating that way, a lot more space to work with. So I'm gonna give scoring to Harden. Next is playmaking. This one's pretty tight too. I have ball handling going to Curry. He's probably the second or third best ball handler in the league. I have Irving first, Curry 1B, and CP3 like second. So I'd say Curry's a little better than CP3 in ball handling. Passing, this was also really tight. Harden and Curry are both really good passers. The only reason I want to give this to Harden though is because he does more with less. He led the league in assists this year, and Curry only had 6.6, but people also have to realize his numbers are kind of deflated because he doesn't play as many minutes as other people, and he splits handling ball duty with Green actually. So I'm going to give this lead to Harden for passing. And then ball security, this is no contest. Curry's pretty clumsy with the basketball, but he's improved on it under Steve Kerr. What's his name? Mark Jackson gave him a really long leash. Can you even see the check marks? Barely. Okay. Yeah. Mark Jackson gave him a really long leash, which is why he was pretty turnover prone. But then under Kerr, he's improved a lot in that regard. However, Harden's gotten worse as he's gotten more freedom and more basically the keys to the offense. Rebounding isn't really a contest either. Harden gets 8 a game while Curry gets 4.5. And something that's not mentioned a whole lot, jeez, that was ugly. Curry's rebounding for a point guard was really good. It's just that people like Harden and Westbrook they're getting close to triple doubles almost every game. So it's kind of blows it out of proportion. But for 6'3" point guard, Curry's rebounding is really good. Now defense is pretty much the tough one. Harden's had a lot of bad history when it comes to defense. He's had like one season where I thought he was good enough, and other than that, he's been pretty abysmal. He has improved this year. And then Curry, on the other hand, like his defense has improved last year and the year before, but he also is hidden a lot, and he usually gets the weakest matchup. But that's not to his fault. It's just that when you have so many long players and so many good defenders on your team, why use one of your best playmakers, and one of your best scorers on your team to have a big duty on defense as well? It's just that the Warriors have a lot of good defenders in Durant, Green, Thompson, Iguodala, Livingston. It's not to Curry's fault. It's just strategically. So it kind of weakens him in this argument. On-ball defense, I give to Harden. His on-ball defense this year was actually pretty good. However, his off-ball defense kind of remains the same, whereas Curry's improved a lot. Shoot, I messed up. Sorry, guys, I'm new at this. And then the last one, help defense. I honestly don't even know who to get this to because neither one actually plays a whole lot of help defense. So defense, I was actually going to say it's a wash between them. Personally, I take Harden just because of size, athleticism. If you have those two qualities, yeah, I can. Sorry, what was the yeah, I can for? Okay, either way. Yeah, help defense I kind of thought was a wash, so I'm not going to penalize either one. Last four categories, or sorry, 5 categories. Size, Harden's a couple inches bigger. He's a, I don't know, I think he was 30 pounds heavier when I checked online. Basketball IQ goes to Curry. Athleticism goes to Harden. Intangibles, I'm pretty sure that goes to Curry. I alluded to that a little before the stream. Basically, okay, thanks, guys. Basically, I don't know. Harden hasn't really had his big shining moments, whereas Curry's already won a championship. He's won 2 MVPs. He's got a lot on his resume, whereas Harden hasn't really. Curry's a really likable guy. He's popular in the NBA. Harden's kind of the not so popular guy. People have questioned his leadership before. Not the case with Curry. And I think what people keep forgetting about Curry is that his overall, what he did this season about incorporating Kevin Durant and then taking over the team when Durant got hurt. It's not easy to do, kind of playing sidekick, going back to leader, going back to sidekick, and trying to incorporate a big teammate like that. So I think intangibles definitely goes to Curry. And versatility, this one was pretty tough because both of them could play point guards. Both of them could play shooting guards. But Harden's size gives him a little more leverage. And I think because of his size, he also gets to guard multiple positions. Like he can guard 1 through 3s. Even if the previous game, he guarded Pau Gasol in the 4th quarter. I don't know why, but it was just they felt comfortable enough to do it. It didn't make sense to me, but yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much that cover. I guess basically this is why I kind of go into this is why I think Harden's better than Curry. He's a better scorer, and he creates his own shot better than almost anyone in the NBA. His playmaking isn't too far behind Curry's. He's a better passer, in my opinion. Much better rebounder. Defense is kind of a wash, but personally, I would favor Harden just because of his size. And this is a game that rewards size and athleticism, so I don't see why you wouldn't. I don't see why you wouldn't count that as categories. However, Curry has basically all the other stuff down: technique, intangibles. It's pretty close competition, but I would still favor Harden in this case. But this is going to be a debate for years to come now, so not to worry. It'll probably come up again in another segment. Okay. We'll move forward with that. Okay. So basically, LeBron not having cakewalk in the East. This will probably be against what public perception is. Okay, so first things first, we can agree that the mantra in any sport is that defense wins championships. Yet people keep discrediting LeBron in the East because they're saying that conference is weaker. And if we take a look at who he's had to face throughout his career, we're going to see a very noticeable trend. In 2007, he played the Pistons, where he had the magical 48-point game, and they upset the Pistons, who were expected to go to the finals that year, and they had the number 2 ranked defense. In 2009, they lost to the Orlando Magic, but they had the number 1 ranked defense. And this is all in the NBA, not just the Eastern Conference, in the entire NBA. 2011, the Bulls, who were a 62-win team, which people keep making such a big deal about, they were the number 1 defense. Following year, Celtics, number 1 defense. Pacers, number 1 defense again for the next 2 years, 2013, 2014. And that team was actually built to try to defeat LeBron. again 2015. So the Hawks, they played only had the number 5th ranked best defense, which still obviously won the 5th best defense, which is good. However, they were a 60-win team too, which again is something people keep putting a lot of I don't know, a lot of faith into. And then 2016, the Raptors were the number 3 ranked defense. I don't know. It's yet to be seen. They still may face the Boston Celtics or the Wizards. I think the Celtics have a better ranking in defense, but still number 3 is nothing to scoff at. On the other side, if you look at the Western Conference, they have they were known to have like uber competitive top seeds, right? Basically, there were the superpowered Warriors who have come to life in the last 3 years, the Dynasty Spurs who are a threat almost every year, and the Clippers, and to me they're just the team that won't admit they have a problem. I'm not counting the Rockets because they've only begun their ascent to top tier team this year, and um, basically, the point I want to make is if we look at who the Warriors have beaten the past few years, and they're the top team in the West, like undisputably, they haven't beaten anyone special either. If you look at Utah Jazz, they were without George Hill for 3 games. Rudy Gobert was basically a fraction of himself. The Trailblazers didn't have Nurkic. The Thunder last year were the only good team they faced in the entire list I'm going to make. Then they played the Trailblazers again last year, which was actually, I'll get to that. They haven't played Grizzlies this year or last year. Trailblazers, nothing yet. Rockets weren't a superpower at the time. They're only 8th seed then. The year before that, they played the Rockets, they made it to the conference finals, but they didn't do anything impressive themselves. They were still a one-man team. They only beat the Clippers because they had such a pathetic choke job, and the Clippers only beat the Spurs because of they messed up the buzzer at the end of Game 6. Pretty sure it was Game 6 in the Clippers Spurs matchup. Then so that year they faced Houston, Memphis, and the Pelicans, but none of them had their starting point guards. So, like, if you look at the Warriors in the past 3 years, they haven't beaten any superpowers, yet LeBron's getting criticized for not beating any superpowers when we just showed that he's beaten a couple 60-win teams, and he's beaten all these super defensive teams. Basically, what's missing in who the Warriors played, they were the Spurs and Clippers. So, I don't know. It's just that people complain that LeBron has an easy path, but the West actually has a less competitive path, or at least the Warriors have. But people also overlook, why does this keep happening? It's because when you're a top-seeded team in the playoffs, they format it so that you only face the weaker teams. It's not to the fault of the Warriors or LeBron for always being a top seed. It's just the way that the playoffs are made. Yeah, and then one other point I wanted to add. Last year, the 5th seed in the West wouldn't have even made the playoffs in the East. So there is a turnaround coming. It was imbalanced before, but to say that one conference is cakewalk and while the other is super competitive, that's just simply not true. Okay. Actually, I think we'll finish early on this. Next topic. Basically, every year, people say there's conspiracy in the NBA, and I feel like that's mostly because no one actually, their own team doesn't win, so they have to complain about something. And the idea is that you can make a narrative for every NBA team that wins the lottery, and to say that it was, rigged. So I'm going to do that with all of these lottery picks teams right now. I'll start best record to worst record. The Heat. So Miami's a big market, and the NBA would love to see Pat Riley face LeBron James. If he were to get a top pick, obviously that increases their chances. The Nuggets. So the Nuggets needed a chance to kind of regain being a playoff team again after they traded Nurkic to the Trailblazers. the Pistons, they actually gave LeBron a competitive series last year, even though it was a sweep and all the games were close. If you add a big-time player, you can get the Detroit-Cleveland rivalry again. Hornets, Michael Jordan's team is just a piece or two away from being able to compete with LeBron. Pelicans, if you give them a big three with DeMarcus, what's his name, Anthony Davis, and whatever guard, it's very guard heavy draft. Whatever guard you draft here would obviously make them a talking point in the NBA. The Mavericks, if they were to win the lottery, they could say, "Oh, it's the NBA's apology for getting screwed over by DeAndre Jordan." Dallas is also a big market that the NBA can take advantage of, and Mark Cuban is a well-known owner. Someone like him, the NBA would benefit greatly if Dallas and Mark Cuban were in the playoffs. The Kings need more stars to replace DeMarcus Cousins. Before, every year used to be like, oh, if the Kings won, it's only because the NBA doesn't want them to leave Sacramento. Basically, it's just so easy to come up with these conspiracies. The Knicks. So the Knicks are the biggest circus in all of the NBA. In fact, all of sports right now. But New York is too big of a market to lose out on. So New York's the team you want in the playoffs. You want them advancing. You want them possibly rivaling LeBron James because it's good. It's good for money. Timberwolves, they need a big three to be competitive, and they already have Towns and Wiggins. Rubio is, I think he's an unrestricted free agent. He may not be coming back. And it's, again, like I mentioned before, it's a guard-heavy draft, so that Timberwolves can easily find someone to replace him. The Magic, Orlando needs help rebuilding since they have never recovered from Dwight Howard fiasco. The 76ers, they've been in the cellar of the NBA for too long, and Philly has one of the biggest markets in the entire United States. The league can capitalize a lot on that if they were to add another lottery pick, get Joel Embiid back, get Ben Simmons back, and whoever they draft now. Big three. The Lakers, the NBA wants, the NBA wants Lakers to be relevant again, especially with the Clippers on the decline, and they're probably going to have to blow up everything they've done for the past few years. The Suns, they need a running mate with Devin Booker. And the Celtics, who could be another superpower in the East to rival LeBron and make it more competitive on that side. So long story short, you can make a narrative for every team in the lottery and claim that the NBA draft is rigged. It's not. It's just people need to find excuses. Okay. Second, Lowry to Sixers. Okay, I will get back to that in the end. Okay, so Grizzlies, Levine, Lowry, Sixers. Okay, players to watch. So basically, I haven't been watching the MLB that much this year. So all the players to watch segment is coming from Chengez. He relayed a lot of information to me, and then I kind of added a few talking points here and there. So basically, this was kind of just a who's hot right now. We can start with Eric Thames, who's probably the best hitter in the MLB right now. He was incredible in Korea, and I actually read a really fascinating article, which basically it's described how he rose into stardom in Korea and what he did to improve. And one of those things was he'd studied Barry Bonds' at-bats, in which Barry Bonds would track pitches instead of swing. I've never actually heard that kind of study before, but it's good because you learn plate discipline and you learn how to guess pitches better. It's really interesting. If you just Google Fangraphs, Eric Thames, Korea, it's going to show up. I highly recommend that. Next biggest topic point in baseball is Aaron Judge, mostly because he's in New York, but he's also he's got his massive frame and he's providing power that's only rivaled by Giancarlo pretty much. Something people are not talking about is how good he is at forcing pitchers to pitch him up. He's pretty especially for someone so young. He's really patient at the plate, and it's not something that's fluky. This is good. His power's here to stay. He'll be one of the best power hitters for probably the next 5 years, unless there's a big injury or something like that. On a side note regarding the Yankees, because we're kind of on that topic, I'm a little surprised why we're not hearing more from Gary Sanchez because he was actually the better of the two rookies last year. If there are any Yankee fans or baseball fans that know a little more about that, I'd like to hear from you. Ryan Zimmerman, he's having a return to relevancy, and excuse me, he was always considered one of the better hitters in the MLB, but then he had injuries and confidence issues, which really brought him down in the last couple of years. And it's nice to see him back. He's hitting over 400. Hitting for quite a bit of power. It's just good to see the Ryan Zimmerman back because he's always been one of the premier hitters in baseball. Then we have Yonder Alonso. He's like the biggest under the radar guy because he plays for the Oakland A's. But basically, his previous high in home runs was only 7. So he's never hit more than 7 home runs in the season. But this year he already has 11, and that's all thanks to the change in the swing he's made. It allows him to hit more fly balls, and obviously more fly balls means a higher rate of hitting home runs. Last player I think that's worth mentioning, Buster Posey. I don't know. Every year you expect something from Posey that's really great, but it's kind of like the small details that are just really fascinating to me, like how he controls the pace of the game. Like if he thinks a pitcher is going too fast, he'll just keep his glove down on the dirt. Something like it's not mentioned at all through commentators, not like common talking points in baseball, but it's just that fascinating attention to detail that keeps his pitching staff under control. And then what he's doing at the plate is also unheard of. Before, he was hitting he was hitting 386 last I checked, and then all the fans were complaining, "Oh, Posey's not hitting for power anymore." And then last week he's hit 4 home runs. He's just like he's one of those Hall of Famers that can just do it all. Last part, games to watch. I kind of went through the schedules, and based on like which starting pitchers were facing each other, I picked the best 2 games that would be the best to watch. This would be Monday, Tampa Bay Rays versus Cleveland Indians, where we have Chris Archer and Carlos Carrasco going at each other. Archer was kind of subpar last year. We expected a lot more, but he's having a bounce back season this year. He's one of the better pitchers in the AL. And then Carrasco, who's having a Cy Young-like season. I think his ERA is 1.96 at this point. So that would be a really good matchup to watch. And then Sunday, not tomorrow, but the following week, we have the Texas Rangers and Detroit Tigers facing each other. That's basically Yu Darvish and Matthew Boyd. Matthew Boyd's kind of under the radar guy, but he's having a good season. And Yu Darvish is just a lot of fun to watch. He has got great pitches and a lot going to him. And that's actually the ESPN Sunday Night Baseball game, so it should be easy to catch too. Sorry, I sped through it as I saw people were leaving. I figured that people were getting bored, so I just thought we'd go through it fast. The only thing left is audience Q&A and suggested topics from you guys. I'll check if there was anything on Facebook first, and then I'll go over to what you had to say on Kit. Okay, Celtics and Wizards game. These are all going to be really brief, by the way. What the two teams have to do to close out the series. Wizards, they have to rebound. They have really big problems when Gortat's not on the floor. What else do they have to do? Basically, they're really willing to settle for threes. I'm not talking about like Bradley Beal or John Wall. Mostly the role players, Otto Porter, Kelly Oubre, the Brandon Jennings. Brandon Jennings just takes really dumb shots. What the Celtics have to do Wizards, one more point. Fight through screens more. Celtics trying to pick and roll every play to get Thomas in motion and kind of give him a head start on. And the Wizards just allowed them to, not game 6, but the game before, they would just switch every time. And he'd always be matched up with Morris and get any shot he'd like. What do the Celtics have to do? Celtics kind of have to just do what they've been doing all season, play good defense, play within themselves, let Avery Bradley just work off of the ball a lot more. He did have a really good game last week, um, but it's not through creating his own shot. It's kind of just working with the system. Who's next? Jay Crowder actually has to show up on offense. He's been really passive on that end of the court, and I guess like I understand saving your energy if you're playing a lot of on offense, or sorry, saving your energy on offense to play a lot more on defense. But he's not really playing exceptional defense either. So Jay Crowder has to show up. Celtics have to just play their own game, and kind of let Thomas lead the scoring and the offense. And that should be the win. Harden's choke job. What did you mean? What did you mean by Harden's choke job? Like, what do you want me to explain? Like, what happened? Because I can't really explain what happened. They were just missing layups. They were missing wide open threes. More posts needed by Al. So no, honestly, I don't think Al Horford's that great in the post. Like he used to be, but I think now he's really passive, and I don't think like him being aggressive in Game 7 of the playoffs when he hasn't been aggressive down low all season would be a good idea. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say on that topic. Okay, regarding the choke job with Harden, what do you want me to say about it? Or like, what do you have question about it? I think it was just like the Rockets came out really ill prepared. No one on that team was making any layups. All of those guys were taking too long to come up with the shot after they'd get it fed to them in the low post. A lot of wide open threes that they just missed. The Rockets were just not prepared, and the Spurs were. The Spurs had like a 20-year-old rookie, Moutier, I think. No, not Moutier. And he was prepared, so it probably comes down to coaching and what we can do it. Yeah, he has choked every year. Let's see. 2 years ago where he had like 13 turnovers against the Warriors, I don't blame him so much. I think that game he could have done a better job of getting Dwight involved, because Dwight was having like had a great first quarter, and then he disappeared for the last 3 quarters of that game. And Harden kind of took it upon himself to try to do everything. But playing 1-on-5 is not going to work. And he suffered. He had those 13 turnovers and lost the game series because of that. Last year, I think last year they were the 8th seed and they played the Warriors as a 1st seed. Okay, thank you. I'll check the Ask FM after this. Yeah, I don't blame him too much when they were the 8th seed against the Warriors 1st seed, just because the Warriors are just a much, much better team. Yeah, no, I don't think there's a whole lot he could have done then. And that Rockets team was even worse than the one before. Let's see. Memphis Grizzlies, are you asking why I didn't put them in my the superpowers? That's mostly because they haven't innovated at all. They haven't improved at all. They just keep playing the same brand of basketball, and that brand of basketball is only getting less popular and less successful. I thought Curry was out against the Trailblazers, not the Rockets. Yeah, I'm almost certain Curry was out against the Trailblazers, not the Rockets, for that year. I think they still faced a full-powered Warriors team. Lowry is sorry. Yeah, so Grizzlies aren't a superpower in my opinion because they made the playoffs pretty consistently, but they haven't improved at all. They keep playing the same kind of basketball in an era where that kind of basketball doesn't necessarily work as well. Defense and rebounding and getting physical with your opponent is always going to work. It's just that you have to be able to shoot threes nowadays. That's just like a given. If you can't shoot threes, you're not going to be successful. Levine, I didn't mention in the what's it called? In the big three for the what's it called? The Timberwolves, because personally I think Wiggins is better, although like I've heard a lot of people disagreeing with me on that. Um, and he's also coming back from an ACL tear. We don't know how he will be once he returns. And lastly, Lowry to 76ers. Um, I I guess that's possible. I just don't see the 76ers being like a very attractive option to any of the premier free agents, and Lowry is one of those. He's one of the better point guards in the league. It's just the 76ers have been in such a mess for so long. I just don't see Lowry wanting to go there willingly. I think that covers everything in Facebook and chat. I will just go to the notifications now. Oh, sure, I don't have the screen recorder. That's fine. Okay, so first question: what are your future plans with SportsKop? It's a good question. Okay, so basically, this was I was hoping this would go better. Hopefully, it gets better as I keep getting more practice with this. I was kind of nervous in front of the camera. So like hopefully once a week, we continue to do these live streams, and hopefully we find ways to make them more exciting. I'd still like each writer to post once a month. It's not exactly going on as planned. If we can get that, we'd get like 4 posts a month. It's still, and basically, I don't know. I just think the more content you push out there, the more likely you're going to get an audience and people to engage with, and that's when it gets more fun. And you get to, I don't know, have like conversations, and it becomes more of a, I don't know, kind of a club where you get to talk about things. So future plans with SportsKop, try to push out more content, and hopefully get more exciting fans. Next question: how did you come up with the name SportsKop? This took us a long time to come up with the name. So SportsKop, I don't know what it was called before, but basically Aditya, he started the blog a long time ago, and it was a blog dedicated to Liverpool, his favorite football team. Football as in soccer. And I think their arena is called the Kop. So from there, I think it was Chengez who came up with the name. He was like, well, the Kop is the name for the stadium. This was a Liverpool blog. I think SportsKop has a nice ring to it. It's easy to memorize. And we all fell in love with the name, so we decided to keep that. And it kept things to their roots, which is I'm always a fan of. How did SportsKop form, and what do you love about it? SportsKop formed. Okay, so again, before his blog started by Aditya on his own, just for Liverpool content. But then it kind of died down, and then I want to say 3 years ago, Chengez and Aditya messaged me asking if I wanted to join them to kind of bring the blog back and put some content on it, promote for them, try to get them some fans, which I obviously haven't done a very good job at. But yeah, so it formed through that. And what do I love about it? I guess just getting to talk about sports. I don't know. You have like when you watch sports and you listen to it on the radio, and when you talk to your friends, it's pretty like a lot of my friends have the same hobbies as me. So sports keeps coming up, and I guess SportsKop is kind of a place where I can gather my thoughts, put it all together, and excuse me, my throat is really dry. Basically gather my thoughts, put it all together, and kind of present it to people who are interested. So that's pretty fun. I don't know. I like having fans who are pretty engaged in it, like the 6 people watching now, and Ankit, who's talking a lot in the chat. Okay. Okay, I think that pretty much covers it all. I just wanted to clarify what you had to say in the chat, Ankit. Yeah, it was the Rockets. Oh, so you're saying Curry was out against the Rockets that year, and there were articles on it. So I thought you had an opinion. I don't know. Even if the Rockets were to play the Warriors without Curry, the Warriors were still a much deeper team. We're talking about the playoff series where the Rockets were the 8th seed, so I think that was last year. Warriors were so ridiculously deep. They had 3 playoff starters coming off their bench. Klay Thompson is still he's still good enough to give Harden a tough enough matchup. Draymond Green was still there to kind of do be the, I don't know, what's that word called? Swiss Army knife that does a little bit of everything. With or without Curry, I still think the Warriors would have beaten the Rockets. Yeah, so I don't know. I think it's not so much about Harden's choke job as it is the team that relies on him too much. He just needs to get a little more help, a second, I don't know, a ball handler that isn't looking for his own shot. They surrounded him with Eric Gordon and Lou Williams this year, but those guys aren't playmakers. They don't help other people get better. Harden's the only one that does that on that team. And just having to carry that load and be the leading scorer, the only other person who does that is LeBron. And that's just asking for way too much out of one player. Yeah, so I think that covers everything. Sorry I went through all the topics a lot faster than I thought I would. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Let me know I don't know, who actually tuned in. I'll give you a special thank you. And I think that covers everything for today. If you have more topics that you want me to work on next week, let me know. I'll try to get to that. Samay, you had I don't know if Samay's watching this, but the one text you sent, that was actually a really good idea. I'll go over it more next week, but main idea is, yeah, I think people are abandoning the mid-range game a lot more than they need to. I think even though it's an inefficient shot, because it's a jump shot that doesn't count for 3 points, I think you have to have the threat of being able to score from all points, all spots on the court. I'll get more into that next week, but I think for this week it was good enough. Thank you all for joining. Hopefully we can improve in the future, and I hope you had fun doing this. All right, bye guys.